me a break. Come on, referee, turn around. Hulkster had Andre the Giant pinned. 1, 2, 3. He had him from behind. Andre now, but maybe Lady Luck riding on his shoulders here tonight.
One headbutt. A second headbutt.
Andre spins a Hulkster around. Suplex right on top of him.
He's on him.
1. We get a 2. That's it.
He got him. He got him. He got him.
No, he didn't.
The referee counted 3. We've got a new world champion.
No, we don't either.
I told it, McMahon. I told you. I told the world that the Giant would win it.
No, sir. That can't be.
I don't ever want to hear you doubt me again, McMahon. Never, ever again.
Dave Hebner, the referee, is outside. He has the championship belt, I believe, in his hands. Hulkster's looking down at him. He can't believe it. He's saying it was only 2. He can't be giving the title to Andre. He can't be.
Hebner counted 3. In wrestling, you don't go by instant replays. This ain't football. It's the referee's decision.
I can't believe what a stupid mistake that was. I was just... I can't believe that.
The guy's only human, McMahon.
No,
he's just a referee.
He can't be. He's going to present it. He presents it to Andre. Raises his hand.
We have a new world champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of this bout.
No.
And new World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion, Andre the Giant.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I wanna talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jousma, and with me I've got...
Professor Aubrey.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
Kim the Geek was planning on being here with us this week, but... life happens, unfortunately. She, as we mentioned in previous episodes, she's going through a lot at the moment. So, when she needs a break, and we move on from there. And, the show is called Friends, plural, Talking Nerdy. So, welcome back.
Happy to be a friend of the show.
Yeah. Before we get into the show proper, we do got a couple of deaths in celebrity land we're going to talk about real quick. Brian Dennehy passed away.
That's true.
Yep. Noted. He's done a lot of character work. I mean, he's probably most known for First Blood, the first Rambo movie. But he's done a lot of stuff. I mean, if you needed a powerful like law enforcement type of figure, you're gonna have Brian Dennehy in mind. Great actor. Another person that passed away was Howard Finkel. You're like, who the hell is that? He was the longtime ring announcer for the WWE. So, throughout my entire childhood, all of the moments that, seared their way into my brain, like Andre the Giant screwing Hulk Hogan out of the championship.
Oh, no. Do we have to talk about that again?
I'm still bitter. But his voice, he's legendary. I mean, and how he would, the winner of the match and new World Wrestling Federation champion, just one of those great voices, one of those great people, and apparently behind the scenes he was a really nice guy too. So
it's amazing how much sports announcers really get associated by fans with the team that they're announcing, or the whatever it is that they're announcing, and it's kind of hard to get used to somebody else doing it when your longtime announcer passes away. I've been through that a couple of times with things that I watch.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Michigan, I would listen to Ernie Harwell his last few years broadcasting Detroit Tigers baseball, and for a while the Tigers actually fired him. and they brought in this pair that worked for the Seattle Mariners and then went back to the Seattle Mariners, but they were not welcomed in Detroit at all. Everybody hated them, and it got so bad that they had to bring back Ernie Harwell. And I'm sure it was the same for like the Dodgers with Vin Scully. Just, yeah, I mean, you associate all these good memories with those voices that can tell the story, and his was kind of like that.
Yeah.
So, going from nostalgic happy memories to angry, pissed off, fuck everybody news. The WWE, my God, wow.
Yeah, wow is a good way to respond to the WWE right now, for sure.
Yeah.
And this definitely transcends wrestling fans because it's so obviously wrong. So let's tell the people what happened.
Yes. A couple things, really. First of all, another episode of Dark Side of the Ring hit, and they talked about the Jimmy Snuka and Nancy Argentino murder case. And in the episode, they talked about a passage from Jimmy's book, and they reenacted it. And they actually have government paperwork verifying that the event actually happened without notes detailing what was talked about. They talked about how Vince McMahon and Jimmy Snuka went into a meeting with Allentown, Pennsylvania police officials about what Jimmy Snuka did to his girlfriend, Nancy Argentino. Walked in with a briefcase, walked out without no briefcase, and the murder charges that potentially that should have been charged against Jimmy Snuka magically went away.
And we know they should have been brought against him because he was indicted by a grand jury many years later, and those charges were brought against him when he was so old he was unfit to stand trial.
Yeah, that's why we got the greatest legal mind that I know in the show. The thing too is that the grand jury, I guess, was able to see the autopsy report that did not see the light of day in 1983, where the person performing the autopsy said this clearly is a homicide and should be treated as such. But because WWE at the time did a majority of their tapings in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and with Jimmy Snuka being one of their top stars, if he was arrested for murder, business would go down, and that would hurt the economy. Which leads us to our next horrific thing that the WWE has done lately. Word came out at the beginning of this week as we're recording that the WWE was declared an essential business by Florida's governor.
Yeah, essential, definitely. What do you think was on the governor's mind when the governor made that determination?
What was on his mind was how fast he could cash the $18 million check that Linda McMahon, who is a part of a super PAC supporting our wonderful president's re-election bid, how fast he could cash that check. And, I stand by my comments that we discussed on episode 99 in talking about WrestleMania, that, having entertainment available as a distraction in these times is important. I have no problem with that. But the essential ruling that they gave WWE permission to film their shows live again, which, I could grit my teeth and look the other way with a taped performance, because with taped you can stagger that throughout the day. You don't have to have everybody congregated in one building, and it would be a lot easier to kind of mitigate any sort of potential coronavirus contamination. But with live, everybody has to be there, and that's just evil. But
well, and it's hard to figure out why, if you could do pre-taped content, how the live content is so different, that the live content is essential when there was pre-taped content available.
Well, there's been speculation that for the WWE at least, their contracts with Universal and Fox for SmackDown and Raw respectively state that they can only have a certain amount of taped material. that they can perform, and they would lose a lot of, they would lose a lot of money. The Fox deal is a 5-year deal that guaranteed them with the TV rights $2 billion. And we'll go into that a little bit more when we talk about the next horrific thing the WWE did. But they had, that's money that they... and I get that. I mean, as a business, you do want to do what you can to make sure your income sources are still coming in. But when you have a worldwide pandemic, you would think...
things change, and there should be more flexibility around erring on the side of protecting human health. Yeah,
that, and, if we're... talking taped performance episodes of Raw and SmackDown, USA Network and Fox are still getting new content. What is the difference? Because there's no audience, they're not traveling around, so what is going to honestly be the difference between having the taped and live performance? There's no difference whatsoever. I mean, the only honest difference would be if somebody made a mistake in the ring. If it's live, they're not going to be able to, say, cut, let's do that again, type of deal. But there's just no, under the current circumstances, no logical reason to do that. But let's talk about the most horrific thing that they've done. Because the day after they bribed the governor of Florida to be declared an essential business, they fired a bunch of people. And we're talking over 20 people. Some of their backstage producers were furloughed, meaning that, they're not being paid by the company, but once things pick up again, they're going to come back to their jobs. But the performers themselves that were fired, they're independent contractors. So when they're let go, they're let go. And there's a possibility that at some point in the future they could come back. But over 20 people, with word coming out that it could be a lot more. There's speculation that they could be looking at up to over 100 people.
Oh, wow.
Being fired at this point. It's just unconscionable because if we're talking about the money situation, I was listening to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio. Dave Meltzer is the preeminent wrestling reporter out there. He essentially created the genre of wrestling reporting, and he was breaking down the numbers. The WWE is not in debt. They have over $500 million in cash reserves. And with everything going on with their lack of touring and not having an audience, sure, they're seeing a dip in money, but they're still able to sell their merchandise via their website and have it shipped to people's homes. They're still providing that new content to the TV stations to, get that money coming in. They did not financially have to do this. There was no reason for them whatsoever to do this at all. You have other companies out there like Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. And I'm sure you're aware of the reputation Sinclair has when it comes to their conservative owners and how they try to force their local stations to, lie, essentially. Sinclair Broadcasting made sure that Ring of Honor is not touring. They're not creating new content, but they're still paying all the performers and office people, everybody with that company, they're still getting a paycheck. How can Sinclair Broadcasting be morally superior to the WWE in this instance? I mean, it would be a different story again if we're talking like a couple months down the road. They did not have $500 million in cash reserves. They were in severe debt. At that point, yeah, it would suck, but that's an economic reality. Businesses close all the time, but we're not talking about a restaurant here. Restaurants, we saw one yesterday that, closed down that, hopefully they'll open back up, but, they operate on very thin margins, and, it's understandable when they have to close down, but there was no reason for them to do this other than to make sure that their profit margins stay the same or go up to impress their stockholders. They were only looking out for their own bottom line. Mm-hmm. And that I'm done. That's just evil at this point. I get, as a business owner, you do have to worry about your business, but especially in these times, especially when you have the reserves available to be able to weather the storm, you're going to come out looking a lot better, and you're going to have customers willing to spend a lot more money to help you out if you are taking care of your employees and not pulling the Hobby Lobby thing. My wife had a vision from God. What do you think?
Well, I think all these things are really terrible that the WWE's been involved with over the last couple of weeks, not counting the murder charge one, which was about, 10 years ago?
1983.
That's when it happened with the brief.
Yeah, that's the initial trial.
Right.
The what you were referring to is the 30th anniversary. There was an article that came out, and that got enough public interest to open a grand jury inquiry, and then they brought it to court. That was about 2013, 2014.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots. All bets are off in terms of trying to understand the economic climate right now, but it definitely feels like. Number one, the 18.5 million or 18 million that is being spent in Florida now by the Super PAC is obviously supportive of the governor's political desires. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard not to draw a parallel between that and the decision to make the WWE an essential business.
Essentially, when the head of that Super PAC is Linda McMahon, who is financially entangled with the WWE's performance. If the WWE does well, she benefits. So it was a bribe, plain and simple.
Yeah. So so that's problematic. And then the layoffs or the canceling of contracts. I mean, if they were independent contractors whose contracts were up, who the WWE then chose not to renew their... I'm not quite sure what happened.
Well, that's another thing, too, because for the longest time, people have been clamoring for professional wrestling to have a union because WWE, and there's actually, and we can watch it later, but there's John Oliver actually talked about it on Last Week Tonight, and talked about the fact that... how WWE is able to save a lot of money with taxes by labeling their in-ring performers as independent contractors. However, the independent contractor status that they have, the performers, you would think if they're independent and not employees, they should be able to go wrestle other places too if they're not, scheduled to appear for WWE on a certain date. Nope. And these performers that were let go the other day, you would think if they were let go, then they would be able to show up on another TV show and wrestle there. Nope.
Oh, they've got some kind of non-compete clause.
90-day non-compete clause as an independent contractor. The independent contractor status is absolutely ridiculous because they are, the performers in the ring are employees. The WWE just does not want to pay Social Security tax or pay for health benefits. For the longest time, like I mentioned, before WrestleMania 2 or 3, I believe, Jesse Ventura talked to the performers in the WWF and tried to get them to unionize. And ultimately, it didn't happen because Hulk Hogan snitched them out. And just for too long in that industry, the performers have it beaten over their head that union will never happen, and just the WWE tries to give the appearance of being one big happy family when obviously they're not when they do stuff like this. And it's just, they need a union. They needed a union yesterday. They needed a union 20 years ago. They need a union because they are employees. If the WWE superstars decided they're not going to perform, what, is Vince McMahon going to wrestle every match by himself in the ring? No. They make his money, yet he hasn't made essentially as a business person because he gets to be able to get the most money out of them with paying as little back to them as possible. And that is another thing that's just absolutely ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Just this, they have a Saudi Arabia deal that they've had for the past couple of years now. The government of Saudi Arabia hired them to perform 2 shows a year in Saudi Arabia. On the one hand, the good thing is that, I have no problem with, entertainment going around the world and performing, making people happy. And there have been some positives that have happened with the Saudi Arabia show, like women being able to actually perform in the ring, which, you know, for that culture is a really big thing. But they're being paid by the government that brutally slaughtered a reporter that was saying bad things about them. And when you're hired by the government, similar to when the Olympics were in China a few years back, you know, the announcers are all, Saudi Arabia is the greatest place in the world. I'm done with WWE. I'm not done as a wrestling fan. There are plenty of other options out there. You know, it would be like, you know, refusing to wear an adhesive bandage again because Johnson & Johnson, the owners of the Band-Aid trademark, you know, did something horrific. You know, you're gonna just go to a different brand if you don't want to use Johnson & Johnson anymore. And that's the same here. I don't think wrestling in and of itself is bad. It has a unique history. We've been watching a lot of documentaries like Beyond the Mat and The Dark Side of the Ring, which is a really good show. And to me, wrestling is, you know, like comic books and jazz, an art form that is uniquely American. You know, but I can no longer, in good conscience, support a company that is just so disrespectful to the people that are making them their money. You know.
So that's a pretty big deal for you, right? Because some of your favorite performers are WWE performers.
Yeah, which not the end of the world, because you got, you know, like YouTube, for instance, has non-WWE channels will have, you know, WWE content, old stuff, like the Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan, the main event match that we watched on YouTube was not a WWE provided thing. There's plenty of good stuff out there. I know there's one YouTuber by the name of Paul Frazier, does these great videos where he will take like a month. He will take like, it's December 1989, and he has like all the tapes of all the shows that WWE had then, except for the pay-per-views, and he will take like little snippets, and it's like a greatest hits of what happened during that month, and really well done. And again, you got AEW, All Elite Wrestling, you got Impact Wrestling, you got Ring of Honor. There's plenty of content out there and plenty of ways to support these performers without giving money to the McMahon family. You know, if fans continue to pay that company money with the way they are currently running things, you are supporting somebody that just does not care for their workers. You know, and if the performers are not going to unionize, then I should not be continuing to support that type of atmosphere with my money. I'm just one person. I think the WWE is going to be is more than likely going to go on and, you know, survive just fine without me. But there are times to where people have to stand up and say enough is enough, and I've reached my point.
Well, I agree with you, and I think that's great that you're making a stand.
You have to. I mean, you have to. I mean, if especially in a time like this, because again, a business being a business, there are times to where cutbacks need to be made. I get that, but when all the evidence shows that these cutbacks, mainly what they hid in the public relations statement that they put out about this, what they hid, one little thing that they hid in there, in like deep in the paragraph, was the fact that they're not moving their headquarters to a new place in Connecticut as well, and there's just a lot of financial chicanery going on. Apparently, they're, you know, with these talent cuts, they're only going to save about $750,000.
Really?
Yeah. So not much at all. So, but let's talk about something brighter, something better, something more fun. I introduced you to the Orville.
You absolutely did introduce me to the Orville. I'm very happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
People don't know that Orville is a sci-fi comedy.
Mm-hmm.
On we watched it on Hulu.
Its home now is on Hulu. The first 2 seasons when it debuted was on Fox.
Oh, right, Fox. And I've only seen the first few episodes, but I really, really am adoring it, and I think everybody should watch it.
What has struck out with you? What made you like it as much as you did?
I really like the characters. And I really like the storylines, particularly the one about there's a technologically superior race or a species.
The Kalon, Isaac.
The Kalon. Yeah. And they have a zoo that is full of all of the lesser...
Oh, no. Okay, Isaac was the robot on the ship, but he was still technically... I know what you're talking about, the zoo episode.
The zoo episode, yeah. So Isaac actually is the only one on the ship who can talk to the other people because he's the only one that's on the same technological level. Mm-hmm. So it was just a kind of a great gotcha moment when you realize that these two main characters from the ship, humans from Earth, got kidnapped and put into a zoo in their natural habitat and are being observed. And it just, raises those questions like good sci-fi does about like, that, what would that be like? And helps you to have compassion for, and compassion and a maybe critique of some things we do as human beings that when put in a different context, help us to see maybe what's wrong with our behavior, which I think sci-fi is great for that. But then it's always got, just funny moments, and the characters are funny, and it's a really good, entertaining show.
It is. I know. I won't go. I'll give a general summary of the episode. I don't. From what it sounds like, you haven't reached that episode yet. But there's a character on the show, Bortus. He's a Moclan. His race is only a single gendered male race, but they have an episode later in season 1 where him and his mate have a child, and that child is a girl. And apparently that rarely happens for that race, so there's a big court battle about whether there should be a sex change for the child or not. And that was a really fascinating episode, really great. One of my favorites from season 1 was an episode that Charlize Theron guest starred on called Priya. The whole premise is that she is essentially an antiques dealer from the future who traveled back in time to steal the Orville ship to bring back into the future. And it was a great show about relationship. That episode was about relationships more than anything, because the whole premise of the show is the captain and the first mate used to be married. The first mate, Commander Grayson, she cheated on him with a Retepsian that's played by Rob Lowe. But the whole premise is that, when they meet up on the ship, it's about the repairing of their relationship, and they become friends, which is really good. I love the cast. Adrienne Palicki, especially, as Commander Grayson. I'm surprised she has not done something bigger. Because everything I've seen her in. She was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Mockingbird. She was in the first John Wick movie. She's in this great movie I believe it was called What Women Want. She's just a great actress. I'm surprised she hasn't done some bigger stuff. The Doctor, played by Penny Johnson-Gerald. Love her. Mm-hmm. She was on my favorite show, 24. Oh. She played Sherry Palmer, the ex-wife of the president, David Palmer. And she on 24, she had a great way of being super nice and then turning super evil. Just absolutely great. She was also in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I thought she looked familiar.
Yeah. And that's another thing about the Orville too. One of the producers, Brandon Braga, was one of the big figures on the Star Trek in its run. He, I believe, started off with The Next Generation, but he did work with Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Jonathan Frakes directed a couple of episodes.
Really?
Yeah, he directed the Priya episode, and I knew he directed it because, of course, there had to be some jazz playing at some point. But season 2 just got better because, as we were discussing, the first season is kind of, they do rely a little more heavily on the jokes, which is not bad, but I did feel that they did kind of force them in, if that makes sense. You know, except for one gag that I'm not going to ruin it, but you'll know it when I see it. It involves Boris and Celine Dion. But season 2, the jokes are a lot more natural. By that I mean just they feel like the type of humor that would occur amongst co-workers on a ship. And I like that. And I'm really looking forward to season 3. Season 3 should be, hopefully, with everything going on, coming out soon. It'll be exclusively on Hulu now, which is going to allow them to explore some other stuff, maybe sprinkle in some extra swear words that they, weren't able to. I had carrots before I came here. Don't know why the audience needs to know that, but maybe they'll be able to sprinkle in some swear words. I know they've already talked about that. Each episode is now going to go longer than the standard 42 minutes you'll get for a network episode. So probably in the 55 minute range. So they'll be able to explore a little bit more, but I'm really excited.
Yeah, it would be great to have the third season. A
third, fourth, fifth. I mean,
yeah, let's keep it going.
Keep it going. But I know Seth MacFarlane. Wrong Seth. Got recently signed a first run production deal with NBC. So, you know, I think the Orville is his last thing with Fox. So, you know, who knows how long that show will be there. But it's Seth MacFarlane's version of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I mean, it's just that classic sci-fi. Each episode is its own contained episode type of deal. It's not serialized storytelling, so you really can drop in on any episode and you'll be caught up. You know, and that's, you know, one thing I really love about it. So,
yeah, super fun show to watch.
Definitely watch it. Now, talking about things to watch, the past few weeks we've been having a little feature about our top 5 favorite movies from particular eras. We started off from a top 5 favorite movies from the year we were born. Then we went to the year we were 10, 20. Now we're going to discuss our top 5 favorite movies from the year we were 30.
Which for me was 2004.
Okay.
What was it for you?
2006.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And yeah, we'll go through it, give our thoughts about it, if we've, you know, actually seen the movie or had interest in seeing it, and we'll go from there. So, Aubrey, start us off.
Are we going to alternate?
I think it would be best if we alternate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I would start off with Garden State. Garden State. Have you seen it? No. It's a really great love story / story about what happens when you have moved away from home and you have to go back and sort of confront your past as well as where you come from. Mm-hmm. It had an amazing soundtrack, absolutely great soundtrack. And I really enjoyed it. It stars Zach Braff, who I think also wrote it and directed. Yeah. And
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman is the other person who was in it. And then Zach's sort of friend from back home is Peter Sarsgaard. And I love all the Sarsgaards. So,
yeah, I think he was in this great little movie that Hayden Christensen did. Hayden Christensen played Anakin Skywalker in the prequel trilogy, and everybody just ripped his performance to shreds, but he's a good actor. He did a movie called Shattered Glass that was a story about something that really happened. There was a writer by the name of Stephen Glass that created stories out of thin air. And the movie kind of details his that journey of how his editors discovered that, and just it's some of the most brilliant acting I've seen. And Peter Sarsgaard plays his editor, and Hayden Christensen just makes you want to pull your hair out. You're screaming like, "Come on, you liar! Tell the damn truth!" But great movie.
Nice. Well, Peter Sarsgaard plays the friend from back home that you haven't seen in a long time, who you go back and he's still working at the gas station, 10 years later. And I think he's just great at playing those kind of characters who are just a little bit skeevy, which this character is just a little bit skeevy. Anyway, quirky little love story really great soundtrack. I definitely recommend it as a good movie.
All right. My first choice was Rocky Balboa, 2006. The subtitle should be "Or How Sylvester Stallone Got His Groove Back." It's one of the most brilliant bookends of a film series I've ever seen. It details. It's a story about how Rocky is able to get his life back together after Adrian passed away. When he wanted to end the series on Rocky V, but felt he didn't execute it as good as he could have. So when he was able to get this together, he was able to, in my opinion, work with nostalgia as brilliantly as I've ever seen anybody do, because it really is a callback to all the previous films, but it's telling its own unique story, and just by the end, tears are going off your face. The whole premise is that, like, there's on Sports Center this computer animated fight between him and a new boxer, and apparently Rocky won that, and so the new boxer got upset and so challenged Rocky to an exhibition fight, and then they had the fight at the end, and it just I can't say enough about this film. Even the traditional Rocky montage scene, just how it led up to that, because he brought in, his old trainers, ended up becoming, were Apollo Creed's old trainers, and just the old guy, let's start making some hurtin' bombs, and then the Bill Conti the classic music hits, and just it's a great nostalgia kick if you love the Rocky movies. I loved it.
Nice. I'm not a huge fan of Rocky. I like the first one. If
you like the first one, you're gonna like this.
Oh.
You don't need to watch any of the other ones. It honestly, if Rocky, the first Rocky and Rocky Balboa were the only two to exist, the world would be a better place.
Nice.
All right, what's your next movie?
My next movie is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So, did you see that one?
Nope.
So, it's kind of a sci-fi romantic drama. And in it, Jim Carrey is in a relationship with Kate Blanchett. Is that right?
No, Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet. That's who it was. Kate Winslet. And they break up. The couple breaks up, and the Kate Winslet's character finds a doctor who can perform some exercises on the brain to erase all the memories of your former lover. And so then you are just free of any thought of that person that you just ended your relationship with. Mm-hmm. And Jim Carrey finds out, and he does the same thing. And then, so they both get their memories erased, and I don't know how we feel about spoilers, but ultimately
I give them all the time.
they end up getting back together because they inherently are attracted to each other, right?
Right.
They just didn't get along in relationship, so.
I've never had that happen.
You've never had what happen? Not get along in relationship, or?
No, the mind wiping thing. I would have taken advantage of that a few times. But,
oh, would you?
Yeah.
Well, you think you would, but then how does that change then your perception of reality? What if that meant that you would then get back together with that person and get to relive that same experience over again?
True, and I was being sarcastic there, because even the worst relationships that I've had, led me to where I am today. And, right, without those experiences, you sort of stay stuck in the same place. Yeah, I would be back in Grand Rapids. Who wants to be there?
Not me. So it's just basically another quirky love story. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. My next choice, cinema classic, Snakes on a Plane.
Oh my God! I can't believe that was one of your favorite movies.
Put it this way, yes, it's a bad movie. It's a B movie. It's schlock. It's just silly. It's stupid. But the fact that they embraced that and they made love to that and just brought us just the most silliest stupidest, most wonderful thing ever. The marketing alone was great because I remember like they had commercials for the movie, and then like you could call. They had like a phone number you could call, and then like when you called that number, they would like ask you what your name was on the recording. Say your name, and then what would happen, like a couple minutes later, you get a pre-recorded call from Samuel L. Jackson, come see the motherfucking movie.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, just stuff like that. I fall for movies where whether people consider them good or bad, where everybody behind it just had passion for putting out the best thing they could. And no, this is not Citizen Kane. This is not Gone with the Wind, but I just love the fact that everybody just thought, fuck it, we're gonna have some fun with this, and they did.
Well, as a genre film, I'm sure it's amusing. Okay, my next choice.
Oh, you should see the look on her face right now. It's just like she ate something bad. Go ahead.
My next choice is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which is a Wes Anderson film, and pretty typically Wes Anderson in its look and feel and music. And those things I really appreciate about that movie. I think it's a beautiful movie, and some of the characters and actors had so much potential. I think it does fall down a little bit on sort of the character and the story. It has a very forgettable story. Like, I can't even really remember what the story was, but I do remember very specifically what some of the scenes looked like.
Right.
And I think that's probably the deal with that movie, is that it's just very classic Wes Anderson, except the storytelling is just really not that good.
I haven't seen that one.
It's the kind of movie that should be playing in the background on like a sheet from a projector at like somebody's really cool house party, but with like music playing, so you're not actually
like a
watching
wine and
it.
cheese affair?
No, not like a wine and cheese affair. Like
something fancier, Tim.
No. Something a little less fancy, Tim. Okay. Like not wine and cheese, just kind of beer and whatever people brought to put on the barbecue. Kind of
Four Loko and hot dogs. Yeah.
Woohoo! Or as
like
as the Nature Boy would say, woo!
No, woo! Like that. I haven't seen that. I think the only Wes Anderson film I've seen is Rushmore.
Rushmore was great.
Yeah. It's like we were discussing when you told me that. If I see it, I'm sure I'm probably going to enjoy it. But his films, for me, just have like a certain aesthetic that just doesn't really interest me.
Yeah, I like the aesthetic. That's why.
So it's. So I want to be clear for any Wes Anderson fans that may hear this. I'm not knocking the movie, and if I see it, I will give it a chance, and I may end up enjoying it because he generally works with really good actors. But it just, nothing about it just made me think like, I gotta see this. So,
even Bill Murray.
Yeah, because Bill Murray is usually hit or miss. In his later career, I loved him in Zombieland. He was great there.
Did you see him in Lost in Translation?
No. You would think I would, because Scarlett Johansson was in it.
Yeah, what's your problem?
I'm sorry, Scarlett. But that wasn't creepy at all, was it? No, I haven't seen that, but I'm sure I will one day.
Yeah.
All right. My next choice, another cinema classic, Crank.
Oh my God. I haven't seen that, Tim. I know that may be hard to believe, but...
You haven't seen a movie about a contract killer that's injected with a poison that once the adrenaline in his body loosens and his heart gets slower, he will be killed? Oh my gosh.
No. It's interesting that so far I have seen none of your movies and you have seen none of mine.
So far. There will be at least one. But Crank, just no character development. The story shit. I'll admit that. But just for this type of movie, for just a mindless action movie, it's great. I mean, it's just wow, it's just everything I want in a movie is in that movie. It's just silly, over the top, melodramatic. Like the Chinatown scene where he's having sex with his girlfriend in public, and he's like, "I'm alive, I'm alive," and the crowd is cheering him on. Dwight Yoakam is his doctor in the movie.
Oh wow!
Just they have some unique casting. This movie shouldn't work, but it does. So
Interesting. I might watch it to see Dwight Yoakam. He was really great in Sling Blade.
yeah, good singer as well. I forgot to mention it when we reviewed Jomo and the Possum Posse, but Jomo sounds a lot like Dwight Yoakam.
I agree. I think Jomo's got a little bit of Dwight Yoakam thing going on in some of those songs.
Yeah, not as twangy, but still similar. But what's your next movie?
My next movie is the quirkiest of quirks, Napoleon Dynamite.
Haven't seen it.
So it's a very funny movie, and I think what I love most about it is that it introduced me to ligers, which is half lion, half tiger, and they're actually bred for their skills in magic.
Okay.
And that's a big part of the movie, and actually gave the name to my kickball team, the Ligers. So I was a proud Liger. But yeah.
For life.
Ligers for life, yo. It's just a funny movie. It's a funny, quirky, wacky movie. I think you would actually like it.
Yeah, and this probably is going to be the same type of movie as like the Wes Anderson movie you chose. Nothing about it really screamed to me that I must see it, but like with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I had that same thought and then watched the TV show and absolutely fell in love with it. So
yeah, and I didn't see Napoleon Dynamite when it was in the theater. I ended up not seeing it for several years after that, but people just kept saying, like, you need to see it, you need to see it, you need to see it. So ultimately, eventually saw it.
There you go. All right, my next movie was the one that I showed you recently, Idiocracy.
Oh, yeah, that's a great movie.
That is an amazing movie, written and directed by Mike Judge. It's about an army guy who takes part in an army experiment and accidentally falls asleep for over 500 years to wake up to an America not unlike our own today. Just everybody is stupid. And
really stupid.
The president, you got President Camacho, 5-time Ultimate SmackDown champion and former porn superstar, finds out that his guy, Not Sure, that's the Luke Wilson character, is a smart guy because like one of the when he first came, he didn't have a tattoo on his arm, and then he got his tattoo, got put in jail, and then he had to do an IQ test, and like what was that first one? If the first 2 buckets have this amount of water in it and the other 3 buckets have this amount of water in it, how many buckets do you have? Mm-hmm. Little things and just a lot. I mean...
so then he's declared the smartest man in the world.
In the world, yeah. When in our time, he was just an average guy. The most average. That's why he was picked for the experiment. Maya Rudolph is in it. She plays a prostitute that took part in the army experiment as well, because she wanted to give some money for her pimp upgrade. Double dose of pimping power. Just the catchphrases in the movie alone. You're watching the Masturbation Network, keeping America baiting for over 300 years. Or Brondo, it's what plants crave.
Right, they do away with water and everyone drinks some kind of sports drink.
Yeah, what? You want to drink out of the toilet?
Toilet water?
Welcome to Costco, I love you. Brought to you by Carl's Jr. Just everything about that movie, it's just... to me, it's one of Mike Judge's best work, and it showcases just how good of a writer he is. Being able to take dumb material and just pace it in the correct way. Dax Shepard as Not Sure's attorney is amazing. Go away, Peyton. Just, you got. If you haven't seen this movie, you got to see it.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't when we watched it not long ago. I couldn't believe that I hadn't seen it before.
Yeah, and the president giving his address in the House of Representing. Just, and how I love too when the president gave his speech. It's like, shit, things is fucked up. But then you see it's on a teleprompter. Shit. It's funny. You gotta watch it.
Yeah,
What's your last movie?
Okay, my last movie is Ray, the biopic of Ray Charles.
Great movie.
Yes, wonderful movie. And Jamie Foxx stars as Ray Charles and does his own singing in the film and does a really great job, I think, of representing Ray Charles. And what I really like about biographical movies, particularly about people who were older when I was younger, right, who were sort of already legends by the time I knew who they were, is that it shows you sides of them that you would never imagine existed. Like, I always thought of Ray Charles as the sweet old man who sang Georgia. And, it turns out there was drug abuse in his past and lots of infidelities, and he was pretty wild, and you'd never know that if you just were aware of his music.
Yeah.
So it's a really great movie.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Jamie Foxx, if you get the DVD, they actually have some behind-the-scenes footage of Ray Charles teaching him how to play the guitar and sing like him. Wow. If you're going to have a teacher, damn. What the movie did is made me feel sad because I didn't know about Ray Charles's legacy. Honestly, all I really knew him from was the Diet Coke commercials. And wasn't he in one of the Naked Gun movies as a bus driver?
Maybe
something like that, but I just knew of him as that old singer whose music I didn't hear, and it made me sad too, because I think it was like 95. Ray Charles actually came to Grand Rapids and did a concert for the West Michigan Home for the Blind, and at the time I was just like, I don't want to see the Diet Coke guy sing, and then watching the movie, it's just like, oh, I missed out. That was such a stupid. Another concert I regret not seeing was when Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan did a tour together.
Oh, I saw that.
Oh,
so good.
I kicked myself so hard missing that. But I loved in the movie too, like Hit the Road Jack. They talked about that. I didn't know I didn't know like he had an affair with one of the background singers, and she was mad at him. And when the singers were saying "Hit the Road Jack," there's a real like get the fuck out of here type of passion that I never put into that song before, and it really it made me really appreciate his Ray Charles as a performer. So
yeah,
much more so than his shot in the Blues Brothers. All right, my last choice. Casino Royale.
Never saw it.
What? Okay.
I'll trade you Princess Bride.
That's going too far.
Oh,
there is no chance in hell I will ever see that movie.
It's so ridiculous, this.
Andre made me cry. Anyway.
You should be ashamed of yourself to say that. You
Nope.
were 11 years old. You were not a child.
I was a child at heart.
You're still a child at heart.
What gave that away? Casino Royale. That was Daniel Craig's first outing as James Bond. When they were putting the movie together, some fans got upset. They didn't think Daniel Craig was right for the role because he didn't have black hair. The fuck. But the brilliant thing about the movie is, I mean, the movie is based on Ian Fleming's first book, and apart from the modern settings, it's really faithful to the book. Eva Green does a wonderful performance as Vesper Lind, and it's just really faithful. But the producers knew that the public reaction, because this is a different type of Bond than they've ever done before. really faithful. I mean, the closest they got to this type of Bond was License to Kill, the last Timothy Dalton movie. Just the vicious, just the brutalness. Because if you read the Ian Fleming books, Bond is not cracking jokes every other page. You know, he's just, you know, he loves his women in the books, just like he does in the movie, but a lot of it is just, you know, brutal action. And that's what the movie is so great at. But the producers did a great job of kind of building Daniel Craig into that role. So by the time you get the final scene where you see a car pull up to a big castle, a guy gets out, a phone rings, and then, Mr. White? Yes, a gunshot. Mr. White goes down with a gunshot leg, and then you see Daniel Craig walk up with a machine gun. The name's Bond. James Bond. The music hits, and then when I saw that, I saw it on DVD, I saw it after it came out, I was like, yeah! And I went and watched that scene over again like 20 times. It was great.
Nice.
I loved it. So that was our top 5 movies from the year we were 30. Next week, depending who we have on the show, we will discuss the top 5 movies from the year we were 40, and then discuss the future plans, because I kind of dig this segment. You know, we can, you know, because what we're planning to do in the future is the top 5 favorite TV shows from, you know, specific years. You know, and then we can go through top 5 something else, books, whatever, you know. So anyway.
Pornographic films.
I don't know if I'd want to go.
Not so much.
The 70s may have some interesting stuff. You know, the 80s, not so much. Maybe. Okay. Anyway. People are like, I don't want to know your porn habits. My sister right now would be like ice picks in the ears, like, no! Anyway, we have an album of the week. We
sure do.
It was your choice?
It was my choice. It was Shannon and the Clams, Onion.
All right. Why did you pick that up?
It's one of my favorite albums for this kind of weather. So if you're not in Portland, you don't know that it's been in the high 60s, low 70s, sunshiny, clear blue skies, puffy clouds, beautiful weather for the last, feels like 2 weeks. And this is the kind of music that I like to listen to on days like this.
Nice. Where
it's just happy, mostly just happy, upbeat, enjoyable music that you could imagine like laying around on the beach listening to.
How did you first discover them?
Actually, a friend of mine named Justin introduced me to them.
Nice.
Yep, so word of mouth, which is the best way to hear about new bands.
Yeah, I mean, because Spotify can, or any other music service can only take you so far. I mean, I find myself, you know, I do tend, even with exploring, I'm always hesitant on doing that because I don't want to be disappointed. And I'm also stubborn with my music choices, so I only have my usual playlist of stuff that I listen to. And
then the good news is I created a station based on Shannon and the Clams, and discovered some more similar sort of garagey, surfy bands that were really great as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So as we usually do, we're going to go through the album track by track, give our opinions up or down. The disclaimer we give, because we're going to promote this on social media, and if the band themselves were to hear this, whether we like something or we don't something, we're simply just giving our opinion. We encourage you, the listener, to check this album out, especially for bands like this. You know, if we're talking about Black Sabbath, they don't need the attention. But, you know, band like this, especially with today's climate, you want to help out your fellow artists as much as you can. So definitely buy this album. But track 1.
So track 1 is called Boy, and it is emblematic of the indie garage punk sound of the band. I think it's got sort of reminiscent of Buddy Holly surf sound going on. Like if you took Buddy Holly and crossed Buddy Holly with the Beach Boys, maybe you'd end up with something that feels a little bit like this song. And it's a great story song about abusive parents, I think, and sort of learning how to deal with the neglect of your parents or the disappointment of your parents. and had some great harmonies. So Shannon Shaw plays the bass and sings, and Cody Blanchard plays guitar and sings, and they both have really powerful voices, and they have sort of similar character to them, and they harmonize on this song, and it sounds really great. They sound great together.
Yeah, the notes I had, I loved the surfy guitar opening. The vocals for certain parts wasn't really my cup of tea, but to your point, the harmonies, especially during the chorus, were spot on. Really, really good. I mean, that's one note I'm going to have throughout the entire album. I mean, the harmonies were just kick-ass amazing. To me, it sounded kind of, and there's no wrong answer with this, to me it kind of sounded like it was inspired by like the Phil Spector Wall of Sound type of deal, because there's a lot of echoiness to it. So it definitely is a retro song, but with a modern feel as well, which I liked.
Mm-hmm. Loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Second track. It's Gonna Go Away. It's Gonna Go Away is the name of the song. And I wrote girl group funk. I felt like the song had a good funky feel to it, but it felt like your sort of 60s girl group kind of song.
Right.
It's about the end of a relationship, and you've had a good time with someone, but then now that time's over. There's sort of the idea of sometimes you meet somebody and you want to be with them and hang out with them, but you can tell from the very beginning it's not a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
Sort of one of those relationships that's going to have its time in your life. So I thought the lyrics were really great, and I liked the song.
The notes I had, the drum opening, I don't know if they intentionally took it, but it was the same type of drum opening that David Bowie used for Boys Keep Swinging. Overall, this track wasn't my favorite. The vocals just kind of took me out of it. I noted that they were, for me, uneven, and it didn't seem to fit the mood of the music, if that makes sense. I did love the trippy keyboard solo. That was good.
Nice. Well, the next song, Backstreets, is actually my favorite song on the album. I just think that it's very singable, sing-alongable kind of song. It's got a great story as well, and a great chorus. Great. So the story is sort of this idea of a sort of angel inside you, kind of, and running away. So almost like the Outsiders kind of story.
I'm gonna get you with my switchblade.
Right, exactly.
I noted it had a real Del Shannon type of feel. Because to me, when I heard it, I thought of, my little runaway, run, wasn't my favorite track, but again, but I have to acknowledge the musicians here, because they really, everything melded together just perfectly, and it's always tough saying I don't like something just because I know how long it takes to create something, and I want to make it clear again that just because it's not my favorite does not mean it's bad. I'm not saying that at all, but just for my musical taste, it didn't hit. But don't take that to mean that I think it's a bad song. They did a great job with the feel. I mean, the fact that that I had that retro feel reminding me of Del Shannon while still being very much a modern song, I mean, speaks a lot to what they did. Yeah. All right, what's the next track?
Next track is If You Could Know. Also, really, this is probably my second favorite song on the album. It's a great song about the way it feels when you meet someone, even before you know if it's going to go anywhere. Like, you've just met someone and you feel attracted to them, and it can be so exciting to be attracted to someone, because we're not attracted to everybody, right? And so we can go for long periods where nobody seems interesting, and then all of a sudden there's somebody who really seems interesting. And it sort of captures that moment of, like, it feels so good to be alive because I have this, like, possibility of love, or at least lust, or
something. Yeah.
Something.
I loved the frantic energy. It was almost as frantic as how you described it. if that makes sense, just because, to the subject matter of the song, it perfectly captured that feeling of when you first meet somebody and you're just like all giddy and like type of deal, and like writing like love sonnets on, oh my god, they're so super cool, and just sending pictures and sending an emoji and
like,
a text.
oh my god, I just got a text message from them. Oh,
yeah.
This stuff that all becomes very blasé eventually.
If people do it wrong. It's short and sweet, and I would say that this is one I would really love to hear live.
Oh,
Because I think live it would be a lot more frantic, and I think people would. I think the audience. I would love to see how an audience would react to this, just because of the franticness.
They have in the past, and they do. I think do regularly play in Portland because they're from Oakland. And I've heard that they're really amazing live. Amazing to see live.
And there you go. If they're coming to Portland, hey.
Let's go see them.
Boom. Well, if they hear the show and they like what we have to say, a press pass would be amazing. All right, what's the next track?
The next track is I Never Wanted Love. And this was a fun, upbeat song. It was somewhat forgettable, I thought, even though it had some fun percussion and some fun instrumentation. There's the organ work was really great in the song, and you could pick up a triangle every once in a while. And I like fun percussion. I like the way they use a lot of different instruments.
I loved the retro poppy feel. I love the background vocals especially. Whatever the instrument they used for the solo was inspired. I didn't know if it was like a guitar or keyboards or whatever, but I really loved that. And the mood this put me in made me think that this would be perfect in a dance scene in a surf movie.
Oh,
just kind of like the old Annette Funicello, Frankie Avalon type of deal, and just kids in bikinis and swimwear dancing around. I dug it.
Nice. The next song is Onion, the title track, and I think this song has a great surf vibe, great guitar solo, and I really like what she's talking about in the lyrics. She's talking about her doctor said I'm an onion, which to me is sort of, when you think about mental health in particular, this idea that we're all these layered beings, and you've got to get, like, if you get through one layer, that doesn't mean that you're finished. You've got a whole nother layer that you've got to deal with. And so the song seems to be about like maybe a little bit of not wanting to do that, or getting tired of having to deal with that.
Yeah.
But which I think was a cool take on the subject matter.
Nice. I noted how it speaks to their musicianship, how they were effortlessly able to go between different musical styles for each song, because they're definitely knee deep in the retro, but not one type of retro, because the feeling I got here was like early 60s British invasion pop. You can imagine like Jerry and a Pacemaker singing this. The background vocals were great. An amazing guitar solo. I love the guitar solo on this song. I would have to say this is probably one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Yeah, I thought you would like the guitar solo.
Why did you think I would like it?
Because it was a great guitar solo, and I know that you love a great guitar solo.
Okay.
So when I heard it, I was like, oh, he's going to like this one.
You're simple to read tune. Okay.
Well, we've talked about a lot of albums much more in depth than most people ever talk about albums. So I do know a lot about your musical taste at this point, I think.
Yep. Loud, and loud. No. With the occasional love song.
Right. Which, occasional love song. So the next track is Did You Love Me? Which is a slower track, kind of a breakup song, almost a ballad, but not really. Maybe as close to ballad as they get, and sort of questioning whether there was ever love in their relationship. And I think it showcases Shannon's voice exquisitely, sort of great use of the organ as well. So really some standout. Her voice is just amazing, and the way that she sings this song is just really transcendent.
Yeah, that's one thing I noted as well. I mean, it was really raw and emotional, which with the lyrics of the song was really fitting. This song, I thought of Crimson and Clover. You know, I really got that type of vibe, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I mean, it really kind of reminded me of that, and just you know, nothing wrong with a slow dance number. Just, you know, one of those. You know, a lot. I mean, because if you think about it, a lot of love songs that people typically, you know, are dancing to at proms and whatnot, kind of are sad. If you really examine the lyrics and whatnot, and I you know, I gotta say, this is another track I really loved, and especially Shannon's vocals. I mean, what's the name of the other guy who sang?
Cody Blanchard.
I do gotta say, and this is not a knock against him, please don't take it as that. I do prefer Shannon's vocals better because I feel she was able to bring more emotion into her lyrics. Cody was great, but a lot of his delivery was the same, if that makes sense. You know, and it's kind of rough saying that for a guy who likes AC/DC like myself, but for me, the vocalists I tend to prefer are ones that do have a lot more range and can bring some emotion to it, even if it's more of a simple-ish type song. And so her delivery was great.
Agreed.
All right, next song.
Love Strike. So
Baby Love Strike. No, not that song.
This song I wrote, psychedelic romp about being on trial for love.
Wonder why you like that, hey?
I really liked it. Lots of changing rhythms, really upbeat song, great backing vocals. It's getting to the point in the album, though, like to sit down and listen to it as an album, where I think I first felt like a little bit fatigued with the frenetic energy, sort of start feeling that way around this point of the album, needing a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of noted that. I mean, this song was a little too slow paced for my taste. The keyboards, this is one instance where they didn't do it for me. They kind of sounded like a circus organ, and the vocals were a little too echoey for my taste, because a lot of times, especially for the types of music I like, you know, I don't always comprehend what the lyrics actually are, and it doesn't help when there's a lot of echoes on it. But to your point, I was kind of feeling that as well in terms of the fatigue part, which is tough because I also know that, you know, based on the songs that I did like, if I saw them live, I would absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So it's if they do listen to this, it's not a knock whatsoever, just my personal opinion, Aubrey's personal opinion. And it's not saying it's bad per se. It's just pacing on a record is tough, even for the most successful of bands. You know, being able to find the right type of songs to fit next to each other. It's not just, you know, the first one recorded is the first track and so on. You got to make it feel. You got to have a nice, you know, ebbs and flows throughout the entire album. And if you're playing the same type of music, that can get really hard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Well, the next song is I Leave Again. And this song is, I think Cody sings this one. And it almost reminded me of sort of a on the road, a kind of Jack Kerouac-y kind of story. Like I'm always leaving, always on the road, can't form relationships really. It had some fun backing vocals, and I thought a great keyboard opening.
I did like the keyboards in the song. I had that in my notes. The vocals were a little too muddy for my taste. Just kind of hard to understand just how they mixed them. In my opinion, I loved the galloping pace. You know, just kind of it you know, surf music at its best. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Just nice tempo throughout. So even with my critiques that I offered, it's a good song.
Yeah. The next song is Tryin', which is a slower song, and I think also Cody. And I was definitely ready for a little bit of slower song at this point in the album. And I liked it. It was almost like a rockabilly kind of song to me.
For me, this was a little slower pace that just didn't hit for me. The vocals seemed out of place for the type of mood they were trying to evoke, which, because with Cody and Shannon, as you noted, their vocals are sometimes indistinguishable. So I didn't know who was necessarily singing this, which speaks volumes to their work, but it didn't have the emotion for me to really enjoy it. The vocals, if anything, too, were just a little too intense for what they were trying to convey, if that makes sense. I did love the guitar solo, because it reminded me of like Eric Clapton in the Yardbirds era. Just that type of a solo. And I do have to say that the vocals that closed the song just sounded messy. So sorry. All right, what's the next track?
Next track is Tell Me When You Leave. And this one I really liked. It had some glockenspiel action happening, which is the type of xylophone type of
glockenspiel, bitches.
Yeah, love a little glockenspiel. And I thought this one was sort of Buddy Holly-ish again on the vocals. And I just loved the lyric, essentially saying, I'd find a way to hold your hand even if every finger was broken. So sweet. Like, even if all my fingers were broken, I would hold your hand.
Aww. My notes, I put Buddy Holly Lives.
Oh, nice.
It did really evoke Buddy Holly. I love the harmonies. I could picture this in like a biker movie in the 50s that's kind of like Romeo and Juliet set in a biker gang. And now somebody has to make that movie. But the guitars were exceptional. I love the guitars, and once again the amazing retro yet modern feel, because it's not what I mean by that is any old bar band can play an old Buddy Holly song, but it takes a talented musician to take that old sound and modernize it while still making it sound retro, and they did a great job.
Nice. Next track is Strange Wind. So this one had a little bit different feeling. I felt like it almost reminded me of the Byrds, I think. Sort of almost 60s psychedelia,
folk rock type,
jangly guitar-y kind of folk rock.
12-string Rickenbacker.
Yeah. And I really loved the whistling at the end. It kind of almost felt like a Western movie at the end with the whistling.
Yeah, I noted that too. I noted that the whistling solo was inspired. The money vocals that started things off, it was just, it didn't get me in the right mood to really enjoy it. But if anything, this is one of the tracks that I don't think they were able to my liking, were able to escape sounding like they were imitating a retro sound instead of doing their own sound that was retro, if that makes sense. They were imitating, not creating, and that just for me, that's why it didn't quite hit. So,
all right, last track of the album.
Last track.
Don't Close Your Eyes, which is a sort of Shannon vocal extravaganza. Almost felt like a Torch song here at the end of the album to close things out. And, I thought it was a good ending. I thought it was a good choice for a last song. I was tired at this point, right? So I was ready for a little Torch song action.
Yeah. For me, when I heard it, the opening of the song reminded me of that Roy Orbison song, "Crying Over You."
Oh,
the crying over you, type of deal. The keyboards, retro but perfect. It fit the mood of the song. The background vocals, once again, were really, really good. I'm not going to say this was my favorite song on the album, but to your point, yeah, it was one hell of an ending. I mean, they definitely brought the passion here. And if anything, the dreamy close. That's how you end an album. Just if you're going to end on a lower key, on a lower key note, you go out like this. It's similar to how what was that song from Take a Number, Satan? The last song that on that album.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite song on that album, I think.
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Or you need it.
Yeah.
Don't know it, but we need.
Yeah, I'm gonna find that album real quick, but it's a similar type of album close, because again, to my point, if you're gonna close, and I brought this up before, if you're gonna close an album, it's gotta be You Need It is the name of.
You Need It.
Yeah, but if you're gonna close an album, it has to feel like a show close. Whether it's, going the Who route, like the Won't Get Fooled Again, something grand and majestic, or like what Chomo and the Possum Posse and what they did here, just kind of on a lower note, like just kind of mellowing and fading away. Mm-hmm. It was good.
Excellent. Well, overall, what did you think of the album?
I dug it. To your point, to the fatigue, I did experience some of that as well, but I can also see where if they have a live album, then I think we might get a lot more of the passion, because I think a lot of these songs are probably best heard in a live atmosphere with a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. And it's not like a late era Beatles album, like Sgt. Pepper, great album of course, but that was meant for just putting the earphones on and listening. This was meant to play to a crowd, and without having that crowd there, with the similar type of sound that they had throughout, just the ebbs and flows. It was, it did get kind of, I did get kind of fatigued, but don't take that as a negative. Don't take that as an insult. This is a great band. Support them. Check them out. And if they do come to your town, check them out live.
Absolutely. Check them out live if you can, and we'll have to put them on our list of people we'd like to see.
Boom.
Boom.
All right. That's it.
That's the end of the episode.
Another episode in the books.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Excited to get through it. So we will be back next week. If Kim is up for it, of course, she will be with us. If not, then it may just be me and Phil. It may be Aubrey back again. Who knows? But one way or another, we will be back.
Awesome.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
As always. All right. And with that, please, I was going to say something cool and just have it segue into what I usually try and end the episode with, but I'll just say, and remember...
It's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside, and when you wake up ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling that I'll be back when the day is new. And I'll have more ideas for you. And you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. You always make each day such a special day. You know how? By just your being you. Only one person in the whole world like you. That's you yourself. I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.